deep divers, ready to unlock some seriously cool insights.
Always.
Today, we're diving deep into Kenneth Burke's A Rhetoric of Motives.
Ooh, fascinating stuff.
We've got excerpts from a lecture series about this book, and let me tell you, it's mind-blowing.
It really is. Burke's ideas are so relevant, even if you've never even heard of a rhetoric of motives.
Right.
He helps us understand how people use language to connect with each other, persuade each other, and even manipulate each other.
Oh, really?
Yeah, sometimes without even realizing it.
So it's like learning a secret decoder ring for communication?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And one of the most fascinating things Burke explores is how words operate on different levels.
Uh-huh.
He makes this distinction between what he calls positive terms,
Okay.
words that refer to concrete, tangible things.
Like a house or a tree.
Exactly, like a house or a tree.
Okay.
And dialectical terms, which are more abstract and open to interpretation.
So could you give us an example of that? I'm all about making this practical,
Yeah.
something we can actually use in our daily lives.
Absolutely. Think about the difference between saying, I need a new car, and I deserve a raise.
Mm.
I go, the first statement, I need a new car, that's pretty straightforward.
Yeah,
That's a positive term.
right. The car's broken down or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Your car's old.
Yeah,
It's breaking down. You need a new one.
straightforward.
But deserve,
Ooh.
that's a dialectical
Yep.
term. It's loaded with all these assumptions
Uh-huh.
about fairness and value and expectations.
Right, like who decides what you deserve?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And suddenly the conversation becomes much more complex.
Yeah, I see what you mean. It's like that deserve statement opens up a whole can of worms, right?
Yes.
Suddenly we're not just talking about a car, we're talking about your performance at work, the company's budget, even your sense of self-worth.
Exactly. And that's where things get interesting, because Burke argues that understanding these different levels of language can help us navigate those tricky conversations more effectively.
Okay.
Like recognizing the positive and dialectical terms that are at play in a conversation can help us see the underlying assumptions and motivations behind the arguments that people are making.
So it's like having like X-ray vision into someone's thought process.
In a way, yes.
I like it.
And this leads us to Burke's concept of orders of terms. It's a framework for understanding how our use of language moves from those concrete observations to those abstract ideas and ultimately towards some kind of shared understanding or unity.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more about these orders.
So imagine you and I are having a debate about something. We might start with positive terms,
Mm-hmm.
observable facts, evidence, concrete examples.
Yeah.
But as the conversation heats up, we might move into the realm of dialectical terms, right? Values, beliefs, interpretations.
Well, it's getting a little more philosophical.
Exactly. We're challenging each other, trying to persuade each other, maybe even getting a little bit heated.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But ideally, we're both striving for something Burke calls the ultimate order.
Okay, so the ultimate order is that like finding common ground, even if we don't totally agree on everything.
Exactly. It's that point where we can at least acknowledge and respect each other's perspectives, even if we don't fully embrace them.
Uh-huh.
It's about finding that shared value or principle that allows us to coexist, even in the face of disagreement.
Okay, I got it. And how does all of this connect to superhero stories? I'm dying to know.
Well, the lecture uses the example of Superman Red and Superman Blue
Oh, yeah.
to illustrate this progression. Remember, this was after Superman had split into two beings, one more emotional, one more rational.
Right, right.
They initially clashed, representing that kind of dialectical tension.
Yeah.
But their shared love for Lois Lane acted as a unifying force, pushing them toward that ultimate order.
So even superheroes have to navigate complex arguments and find compromises.
Absolutely. And think about how this plays out in the real world. Let's say you're arguing with a friend about politics.
Mm-hmm.
You might have completely different views, but maybe you can both agree that a healthy democracy is important.
Right.
And that shared value, that ultimate order, can create a space for dialogue, even if you never fully see eye to eye on every issue.
Okay, this is making me rethink every argument I've ever had. It's like Burke is giving us a whole new playbook for communication.
That's a great way to put it.
Mhm.
And he's showing us that finding common ground isn't about erasing our differences.
Yeah.
It's about finding a higher principle that kind of encompasses those differences.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that even in disagreement, there can be unity.
This is brilliant. Okay, deep divers. I know we've just scratched the surface here, but we've got a lot more to uncover, including how Burke's ideas apply to everything from the evolution of Superman's powers to the structure of comic book storylines. But first, let's take a quick pause.
Yeah, good idea.
What's standing out to you so far? What are you already starting to see differently in the way people communicate?
I'm seeing dialectical terms everywhere.
Me too. And those positive terms, they're not so simple anymore.
Right. It's like everything has these layers of meaning now.
I know. It's like mind-blowing.
Okay, we need a break.
Yeah, we need a break. Okay, deep divers, let's jump back into Kenneth Burke's A Rhetoric of Motives. We've been talking about these orders of terms. You know how language kind of moves from those concrete ideas to the more abstract ones?
Right.
In search of that unity.
That ultimate order.
Yes. And I'm super curious to hear how all of this connects to like the evolution of Superman's powers.
That's a great observation. Superman's powers,
Yeah.
they didn't just pop up like fully formed.
Yeah.
Right. They evolved over time. And that reflects, I think, not only like changes in storytelling, but also our own evolving understanding of power itself.
So how do Superman's early powers fit into, Burke's framework?
Well, think about his golden age abilities,
Okay.
like super strength.
Right. Leaping tall buildings in a single bound.
Yeah, leaping tall buildings, bulletproof skin.
Yeah.
Like these were pretty straightforward powers.
Yeah.
Almost like tangible objects,
Yeah.
Like you could see them, you could measure them, you could even test them.
Right.
They fit really neatly into Burke's positive order of terms.
Okay.
Concrete and easily defined.
So he was kind of like a super-powered circus strongman back then?
Yeah, exactly.
But Superman's powers, they became much more I don't know, complex, I guess, and nuanced over time.
Right. He developed flight and heat vision and super speed.
Right.
Powers that really push the boundaries of what's, physically possible.
Right, yeah.
These abilities were more abstract.
Uh-huh.
Harder to explain with just like simple physics. It's like the writers were entering that dialectical realm, exploring new possibilities.
Yeah.
And challenging the limitations of that positive order.
And as Superman's powers evolved, does he also become more than just a physical powerhouse?
Absolutely. He evolved into a symbol of hope.
Right.
And a champion of truth and justice.
Yeah.
And those concepts,
Yeah.
hope, truth, justice, I mean, those are dialectical terms through and through.
Right.
They're open to interpretation, they're constantly being debated, and they're deeply intertwined with our, values and beliefs.
So Superman's powers became less about like what he could do and more about what he represented.
Yeah, exactly. And that shift, I think, mirrors Burke's idea of moving towards that ultimate order.
Okay.
Superman's powers became integrated into a larger system of meaning, a symbol of something that transcends just physical strength. He embodies the values that we as a society strive for, even if we don't always achieve them.
This is blowing my mind.
Right.
So by applying Burke's framework, we can kind of see how even like fictional characters, like Superman, can reflect our own evolving cultural values.
Yes.
And our understanding of the world.
Precisely. And this brings us to another fascinating aspect of Burke's work, how those orders of terms, those positive, dialectical, how they play out in the structure of storytelling itself.
Okay, I'm hooked. Tell me more.
Think about like a typical comic book story arc.
Uh-huh.
It often starts with a very specific, very concrete event.
Okay.
A crime, a disaster, some kind of disruption to the status quo.
Right.
That's your positive order.
Yeah.
But as the story unfolds, the heroes and the villains start grappling with these more complex issues.
Right.
Motivations, ideologies, moral dilemmas.
Yeah.
We're moving into that dialectical space, you know, where the initial conflict kind of expands into a battle of ideas and values.
So every punch thrown, every witty quip, every dramatic reveal, it's all building toward that ultimate order.
Exactly.
That resolution, that where the conflict is somehow resolved and hopefully some kind of understanding is reached.
Exactly. And just like with Superman's powers, that resolution, it doesn't always mean a neat and tidy ending.
Right. Yeah.
Sometimes it's more about raising new questions, challenging assumptions, and pushing us to, really think more deeply about the issues at play.
This is making me think about those epic comic book crossovers where like multiple storylines and characters collide.
Yeah.
It's like each individual issue is a moment in that larger ultimate order,
Hmm. It's exactly.
contributing to a grand tapestry of conflict and resolution.
Yes, and those individual moments, they're often, they're full of that dialectical tension.
Yeah.
The heroes disagree with each other, villains make unexpected choices, and the lines between good and evil become blurred.
Right.
But all of that complexity, all of that conflict, it ultimately serves a purpose
Okay.
to drive the story forward, to
Yeah.
make us question our own assumptions about the world.
It's like those dialectical clashes are like the fuel that keeps that narrative engine running.
Exactly. And think about how those clashes play out in real life.
Yeah.
Whether it's a political debate, a family argument, or even just an internal struggle with your own beliefs, those moments of dialectical tension, they can be incredibly frustrating,
Mm.
even painful.
Yeah, for sure.
But they also have this potential, to lead us to greater understanding, to deeper connections, and ultimately to a more nuanced view of the world.
Okay, deep divers. We're starting to see how Burke's ideas they go way beyond just, analyzing speeches or understanding superhero stories. He's giving us this framework for understanding how conflict and resolution play out in every aspect of our lives.
And he's reminding us that even in the midst of chaos and disagreement, there's always that potential for finding common ground, for building bridges, and for moving towards a greater understanding of ourselves and each other.
We've covered so much ground today, from the different levels of language to the evolution of Superman's powers and the structure of comic book storytelling. But I have a feeling our deep dive isn't over yet, is it?
We've got more to explore.
Okay, deep divers, we're back, ready to wrap up our exploration of Kenneth Burke's Rhetoric of Motives.
It's been quite a journey.
It has. We've been unpacking some pretty complex ideas, but I'm starting to see how this framework can help us understand, everything from political debates to family arguments to even the stories we tell ourselves about the world.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It is. It is.
Burke's ideas, they have this incredible power to connect all these seemingly like disparate things, language, persuasion, conflict resolution, and just reveal the hidden patterns that are at work.
So before we let our listeners go, let's recap those key insights one last time.
Yeah, sounds good.
What are those like big aha moments that we want them to take away from this deep dive?
Well, I think one of the most powerful takeaways is Burke's distinction between positive and dialectical terms.
Right, right,
Remember, positive terms, those refer to concrete, tangible things.
right.
While dialectical terms, they deal with those more abstract concepts and values that are open to interpretation.
It's like learning a new language, right?
It is.
Once you start paying attention to those different types of language, you can start to see the hidden agendas and assumptions that are at play in any conversation.
Exactly. And then there's that fascinating concept of the orders of terms,
Right.
how our use of language kind of moves from those concrete observations to those abstract ideas, ultimately striving for some kind of shared understanding, or what Burke calls the ultimate order.
And we've seen how that drive toward ultimate order, it plays out in everything from, the evolution of Superman's powers
Yes.
to the structure of comic book storylines.
Exactly.
It's like there's this innate human desire to find meaning and unity even in the midst of chaos and disagreement.
Absolutely. And achieving that
Yeah.
that unity often requires compromise,
Mhm.
finding ways to bridge those dialectical divides
Yeah.
and reach a higher understanding. Sometimes that involves confronting a common enemy, like
Wow.
we saw with those Superman examples.
Right.
But often it's about finding that shared value or principle that allows us to coexist, even when we don't see eye to eye on everything.
So Burke is basically giving us this roadmap for navigating those tricky conversations and conflicts that inevitably come up in our lives.
Precisely. He's reminding us that even in the most heated debates, there's always the potential for finding that ultimate order, that shared sense of purpose that can bring us together. It's about recognizing that disagreement doesn't have to be destructive.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it can actually be an opportunity for growth, for understanding, and even for connection.
This has been an incredible deep dive.
It really has.
And I hope our listeners are feeling as energized and empowered as I am. But before we sign off, I want to leave you with one final challenge, something to really chew on.
Yeah, thinking about those orders of terms, those different levels of language that drive towards unity. Where do you see them, playing out in your own life? What
Yeah.
what dialectical tensions are you grappling with right now?
Mm.
And what are those guiding principles, those ultimate orders that might help you navigate those complexities and find those points of connection?
Take some time to reflect on that.
Yeah, good advice.
And remember, as Burke reminds us, that the journey toward understanding, it's never truly finished.
That's true.
It's an ongoing process of exploration, dialogue, and a willingness to embrace those moments of dialectical tension
Right.
that can ultimately lead us to greater wisdom and deeper connections.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll be back soon with another exploration of a new and fascinating topic.
Until then, keep questioning, keep connecting, and keep diving deep.
See you next time.
Bye.